Alright, welcome back to another episode of StichMethod on the road. Today, I'm in Montana, the foothills of Glacier National Park, and let me tell you, it is gorgeous. But you can check it out yourself. Let's get down to business. Our guitar lesson today is going to be about scales and how to use them. I have seen a lot of things pop up on the web about, scales suck. And it's like, no, scales don't suck. You got to learn what they're for, especially in the improv setting if you're improvising, how to use them and how to combine them with what's going on in the music. And that's what we're going to do today. So with that being said, we're going to get right down to it. We're going to use a chord progression, a very slow, steady chord progression. I will play it for you. It's going to be G for 4 beats, to a D for 4 beats, for E minor for 4 beats, and then a C for 2 and a D for 2, and it's going to be over and over again. And don't worry, I have a loop for that. All right, and so that might sound familiar to some people. With that backing track, we are going to start to understand what scales are used for. So when we take a look at those chords, we have a G, we have a D, E minor, and a C, and those chords should appear right here, and these are in the key of G. It is the 1 chord, then the 5 chord, and then the 6, and then a 4, and then a 5. So we're in the key of G, we have a G progression, and so we're going to use a G major scale. And I'm going to move quickly because I believe in you. I do. Alright, and so check us out. The G major scale, I'm going to adjust my seat a little, is right here, the one I'm going to use. There's many G major scales, but we're going to focus right here. And the frets first are going to be 12, 14, 15, 12, 14, 15, 12, 14, 11, 12, 14, 12, 13, 15, 12, 14, 15. And the notes, I'm going to start in the E here, but this isn't the root. It's E, F sharp, G. There's the root. Then A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Just in case there's a flute player watching. Hey Mike, how you doing? Alright, and so, our flautist, I should say. Alright, and so we have our G major scale, we have a G major chord progression. Now, if you just play the scale itself, I understand how you can be like, well, it's confusing, how do you make a melody? And if you're a fan of StichMethod, you're going to know that chord tones are what really are the accents of your solos. And I'll explain where we're going, but if you just play with the scale, it's going to sound loose, and you're going to put the weight on you to create a melody, and you don't want to do that. You really want to follow the chord tones, and we're going to talk about what a scale does, but let's just talk about the chord tones first. Alright, so we have a G chord, and so we're going to use this little thin G. If you need any help with the cage chord system and understanding those chords, there'll be a video popping up right here, and so this is our G-shaped G chord in the 12th fret. Alright, then it goes to a D. We can play a little D chord up here, right? Then it goes to an E minor. We can play an E minor shaped E minor. Then we can play a C-shaped C chord. And you can either move this up if you want to a D chord, or you can come back to the 12th fret, play the D-shaped chord, like that. And so we have these chord tones we're looking at. Now, I'm going to play the backing track right here, and I'm going to turn on a little distortion, and all I'm going to do before we get to the importance of scales is I'm just going to play those arpeggios in random orders. Here we go. Sorry, messed up there. Okay, and so you can hear, excuse me, I gotta like stretch over there. You can hear that the chord tones are checking in just fine on the moments of the chord tone changes. But if we don't play a scale, it's gonna sound, sorry about that. That was my automatic air freshener going off. If you heard that, I apologize. The chord tones are going to stick to the chords. They're going to sound great, but if we don't put the scale in, then we lose the human nature of the voice of a guitar solo. And so let me show you what I mean. We have that scale I was just showing you a couple minutes ago. And we're going to use the scale, and this is what the purpose of a scale is to sew together the chord tones. Now, I did release a video last week, I believe, right here, about thinking about direction okay, in your solo. You know, do you want to go up? Do you want to go down? How do you feel it? And you want to use that video combined with what we're doing here to help tighten up your improv. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to see those chord tones. I'm going to see that G. I'm going to see the D chord. I'm going to see the E minor chord tones. I'm going to see the C chord. I'm going to see the D chord or the D chord, however we're going to play it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the key scale, okay, the G major scale, to step towards, to skip, to hop, to run, to tell a story to the chords. The reason I like this chord progression to practice to is you have three chords, the G, the D, and the E minor, that sit on the beat for four beats. And then you have a quick C and a D where you can really just hop to the chord tone. So in the first three chords, you can practice your direction of your scale work and tell your story by moving through the scale that will sew together your chord tones. So let me just show you what I mean. Listen to the difference of a solo of just chord tones versus a solo with chord tones and scales. Ooh, really? Should take that out. So you can hear I'm using the scale. Now the last two beats, the last two beats, because the chords move quickly, I'm really accenting those chord tone changes and just kind of bring them with me and hitting the arpeggios. Ooh, really? I should just redo this whole video, but I'm not going to. Alright, and so the idea of a scale, if you can find your key scale, or whatever scale you're using to tell your story, in many genres you have different scales. In the blues you have minor pentatonics. In Dorian jams you have Dorian scales, right? You have all these different scales. Whatever your scale choice is, that is your, when I'm teaching it, that's your train tracks. And your chord tones are the train stations. And you want to use the scales to get to your chord tones. You don't want to just hop to them. It's going to sound a little robotic, and people are going to catch on and be like, this is just not telling a story. So the purpose of a scale is to move with your chord tones and to, you know, think how you want to tell your story. You want to go up, you want to come back, and you want to use the motion of the scale to really get to those chord tones. I'll do it one more time and listen for the movement. Okay, here we go. This is probably the video where I mess up the most in, and I should just, again, delete it. But I'm in an RV in Montana, and all is good. All right, and so I want to show you that scales have a purpose. And a lot of people are like, ooh, scales, no, chord tones. It's a combination of both, and you really have to work at it. Of course, on my Patreon, I'll have this backing track and practice sessions of how to do this in many places. But you want to be able to think about the direction that you want to go in before you hit your chord tones. Again, the video I referenced earlier about practicing direction is huge for this. But you can hear the difference between hitting just chord tones or hitting just a scale. If you're playing with just a scale, I mean, it's frightening. I'm letting you know that. If you believe in just a scale, that's a problem. Because a scale, without you understanding where your chords are, I mean, it's just not going to come together. Don't put that weight on you. Scales are there. The series of notes, that's what a scale is, to help you move towards your goals and tell the story the way that you want to tell your story. And so this is a quick video, but I want to show you scales have purpose. They are meant to move. It's not like, you know, oh, you learn a scale, you're not going to play it, hit the chord tones. No. And also, it's not like, hey, here's a scale, play it. It's a combination of both, all right? And you can see this happening in every single StichMethod video and every single guitar solo you hear. There's a marriage.
Marriage. knowledge is what brings us together today.
All right, of scale, movement, and chord tones, and you want to practice that depending on how you feel, what your emotions are. And again, the video that I released last week about, you know, soloing with direction is going to be really, really helpful for this. So a very quick video, but what are scales? Well, they're a series of notes that help you develop your melody based on your chord tone movement. And so with that being said, it's a very quick StichMethod video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you want to practice again, you can practice with me on Patreon. Otherwise, if you want to practice this on your own, go do it. Use your scales to move to your next goal. See you soon from someplace else in America. Take care. Bye-bye.